What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rig Knows Hoops, and it's playoff time. So let's talk about some playoff basketball, man. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. It's a channel where we just talk about NBA basketball. So if you love hoops, this is the place for you. And in this video, I'm just gonna give my playoff preview, I guess predictions. I'm gonna just talk about who I think is gonna win which series. So to get into it, let's start with the Eastern Conference, though, man. I think the East can be a little more enticing than maybe what some people are thinking. You know, obviously we have the Brooklyn Nets being maybe the favorites to win the conference, but I think there's some teams out there that can be a good matchup for the Nets. So let's talk about the first series out there. The Philadelphia 76ers at the 1 seed facing off against the Washington Wizards. The Wizards had like a 0.6% chance to make the playoffs in the beginning of April, and now they made it all the way to the 8 seed. So, you know, congrats to them. Russell Westbrook having a good season, breaking the triple-double record. Bradley Beal second in the league in scoring. Daniel Gafford seems like he's found a good role with this team. But, you know, it all ends here. I'll give the Wizards one game. I think Philly wins this in 5. I just think Joel Embiid is going to be too much. They don't really have a solidified matchup for him. I shouted out Daniel Gafford, but he has a lot on his plate if he has to contend with Joel Embiid, along with Robin Lopez and Alex Len. If those guys are getting, you know, a decent amount of minutes, Joel Embiid is going to have a field day. Also, I think having Ben Simmons to be able to neutralize either Westbrook or Bradley Beal to a decent amount will be a big key in this series. So I'm going to take the Philadelphia 76ers to 1 seed in 5 games. Next, the Brooklyn Nets, a team that's only played like 9 or 10 games together with their main 3 players, Kyrie, KD, and James Harden, facing off against the number 7 seed, the Boston Celtics. We know the Celtics have been decimated with injuries and health and safety protocols all year long. But I don't think, even if they were healthy, that this would change too much in the series. It might give them an extra game. I'm also call this in 5. Brooklyn Nets, I think this will be a good series for them just to get, you know, a little more chemistry together, because really the Celtics, unless Jason Tatum's having a big game, like a, you know, upper 30s, 40-point game, I don't really think the Celtics have much of a chance. I think Jason Tatum is capable of having one of those games. That's why, out of respect, I'm going to give the Celtics 1 game. But I'm going to take the Nets in this series. Next, this might be the one series that I'm still torn on as I'm recording this video. The Miami Heat at the 6 seed and the Milwaukee Bucks at the 3 seed. 2 evenly matched teams. We saw them face off in the postseason last year in the bubble. Miami was able to run away with that series in 5 games. I think this is about as even a series as it gets in the first round. I'm leaning towards Milwaukee because I think they're different enough this season. I still don't trust Coach Budenholzer as much, but I think they're different enough. Even though Giannis made those comments the other day, I didn't really look too much into that. I think they're different enough. I think the Drew Holiday edition will be a big difference maker in this series. And also, you know, adding PJ Tucker, they just added a different level of toughness to this team that they were lacking. And they're going to need that because the Miami Heat, there's some dogs out there, you know, in South Beach. So it's going to be a competitive. I think this goes the full 7 games. But I'm going to take the Bucks in 7. Probably a very close game 7 at that. And the last first-round series in the East is the New York Knicks at the 4 seed, home court advantage, 15,000 fans in the Garden. The first couple games sold out capacity against the Atlanta Hawks. I think this is going to be the most fun series in the first round, at least on the Eastern Conference side. I think this series can go 7 games too. But there's something about the Knicks. I was talking to my dad and we were just saying like how Thibodeau has these guys playing. It's really like he's just gotten the most out of the talent that he has on this team. Like Julius Randle has shown flashes that he could be an all-star player, but this year he's an all-star player. He's an all-NBA caliber player. He's got guys like Nerlens Noel playing at an all-defensive level. Alec Burks has had some huge games off the bench. RJ Barrett's been very under the radar, very good this season. And even like guys like Reggie Bullock's been shooting well. Elfrid Payton, even though Knicks fans hate him, I mean, he still plays like effective defense for a good majority of the games and stuff. And Derrick Rose has been just amazing off the bench for this team. I do really like what the Atlanta Hawks have done. Trae Young's been very good. Clint Capella's had one of the better seasons of his career. I like seeing, DeAndre Hunter get healthy. John Collins has been playing well. I raved about this team as well. Nate McMillan's done a great job. Give me the Knicks in 7, but this is going to be a fun series. I don't want to miss a game in this one for sure. So make sure y'all tune into this one because it's probably going to be one of the most entertaining first round series in the entire playoffs. Now let's move to the West. Let's get the first round series at the West talked about, man. First series, we just learned who the AC will be last night. Shout out to the Memphis Grizzlies playing against the Utah Jazz. Now, Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell are expected to be full go for the series. It's gonna be very intriguing early on in the series how they're playing because they haven't played in such a long time. Donovan Mitchell longer than Mike Conley, but I'm gonna still take Utah in 5. I'm gonna still take the Jazz in 5. I think it will be a very competitive 5-game series. Like you had those series that it's not like a team just getting blown out the water. I really like what Memphis has done this season. I talked about them in my video last night. But I just think the Jazz, their experience, and I just think they're a different team compared to, maybe last season or, other weaker one seeds that are, weaker on paper or, have more question marks on paper is what I want to say. So I think Utah, with their shooting, their defense, Donovan Mitchell being back, Mike Conley being back, Joe Ingles playing well, Jordan Clarkson, Rudy Gobert holding down the middle is going to be very key. That pick and roll is going to be very important. Rudy Gobert has improved a lot as a defender in the pick and roll and on switches. So I'm going to take the Jazz in 5, but shout out to the Grizzlies for even making it this far. This is the series that it's upsetting. The Phoenix Suns worked so hard to get the number 2 seed, second best record in the league. And you get to play LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the defending NBA champion LA Lakers in the first round. That is some reward, man. Some reward. I think this is another series that is going to be one of the better ones in the first round. And I'm kind of torn. I'm very torn. I love Chris Paul. That's one of my favorite players all time. Devin Booker deserves more respect than what he's been given. Mikal Bridges has had a sensational year. Really slept on both ends of the floor. He's been a very great 3-and-D player for this team. DeAndre Ayton has really held it down in the middle too. Still developing, but he's really showing a lot of promise. And there's so many other players on this team. Jay Crowder, Torrey Craig have been playing well. Dario Saric, there's so many great facets of this team, but I can't go against my word. I can't pick against LeBron James, at least not this early. I can't pick against LeBron James in the first round. Probably a 7-game series, full 7 games. And I hate to say it, just as being a Chris Paul fan, but as the NBA, I guess, analyst, I'm going to take the Lakers in 7. 3-6, we get a little rematch from a couple years ago, man. The Denver Nuggets against the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, of course, we know no Jamal Murray in this series. Portland's been playing really well, but Denver has consistently been good even through the injuries. Jokic is the MVP. I think that's stamped. Michael Porter Jr. is the key to this series for sure. He's the piece that really can unlock what the Nuggets can be as a team. And look, Dame, CJ, those are 2 of my guys, especially CJ, but give me the MVP, Nikola Jokic, and the Denver Nuggets. I think Michael Porter Jr. is bound for a big series because even though Portland has improved lately as a defensive team, I don't think there's much that they can do about Michael Porter Jr. Covington has been playing a lot better lately, but I just think MPJ is just one of those dudes. He's going to hit those tough shots. He's going to hit tough shots, and I think him, Jokic, are going to, just be, unstoppable enough in this series because they don't really have an answer for Jokic either. So I'm going to take the Nuggets and twin. I want my Chick-fil-A because we bet on this series. I definitely want my Chick-fil-A. The 4-5 matchup, another rematch from last postseason. We get the LA Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, we saw last year in the postseason, Luka Magic was good enough to get Dallas a couple games in this series, make it a little more intriguing, but the Clippers ended up closing it out. I think this is a different Clipper team. I really do. I'm going to still probably say this is a 6-game series. I'm going to take the Clippers in this one because Dallas has been playing very good basketball lately, one of the most under-the-radar teams in the league. I really like Jalen Brunson, what he's provided. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been, shooting the lights out lately, so that's a very good sign for them. And Luka is Luka. That's already understood. But I'm going to take the Clippers. I think they're a different team. I think they wanted this matchup, so, you can't wet the bed if you wanted this team in the first round. So I think the Clippers are primed to have one of those playoff runs which we expected last season. at least we'll see it in the first round, as I'm picking them to win this series in 6 games. I think Paul George is going to have a very big series against the Mavericks. Back to the East, 1-4 matchup would be the Philadelphia 76ers against the New York Knicks, a little old-fashioned Atlantic Division rivalry. Give me Philly. I'm going to take Philly in 6. I just think this Knicks team is so gritty, so they're not going to just roll over and play dead, man. And I think Nerlens Noel, not going to start Joel Embiid, but he is just active. He stays active. His motor is, great enough that he's going to, make it not tough, but he's going to be there, for Joel, the entire 7-game series. Difference maker, me and my dad was also talking about this. Shout out to my dad. We be having some great basketball conversations. Tobias Harris. He's going to be the difference maker, not just for Philly in this series, but I think in the entire postseason. So I expect Tobias to have a very good series, and he'll probably be tasked with a lot of Julius Randle assignments, so he's got to be ready for that too. So I'm going to take Philly in 6, but this is going to be a very good series as well. 2-3 matchup, the Brooklyn Nets, the 2 seed, Milwaukee Bucks, the 3 seed. This might be a very good series, man. I'm very intrigued to see how the Nets decide to guard Giannis, because unlike maybe the Miami Heat or even the Philadelphia 76ers, the Nets don't have the defenders to really match up with a lot of these, top teams in some ways, man. Like, against Giannis, you want, very good defenders, build the wall, all that stuff. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. It's going to be interesting for sure. I would say Jeff Green is going to get a lot of Giannis assignments. I would say Nick Claxton should probably get a lot more playing time too in this series, depending on, where he's at health-wise, coming back from the health and safety protocols. I'm going to still take Brooklyn, though. I'm going to take Brooklyn in 6 as well. I just think their offense is too much. And you're asking a lot for this Milwaukee team to really be so locked in on defensive end and also being able to outscore this team too. Shout out to the Bucks, though. I think step in the right direction this season, but it's just the Nets they're too much for Milwaukee in this series. Back out west, Utah Jazz, LA Clippers, the 1-4 matchup. Look, Jazz have been a very good story. Quinn Snyder's done a great job with this team, being the best record in basketball. Dude, give me the Clippers. I've been saying it all year. The Clippers, they're flying under the radar. That's perfect for this team. Give me the Clippers in this series. I'm going to say it's a 6-game series because I think the Jazz, a lot better team than I think even they're getting credit for, But here I am. They're the 1 seed. I'm picking against them, the 4 seed, the LA Clippers. Give me them, man. I think Kawhi, Paul George, if Pat Bev is back and healthy, Morris, they got the defenders to really, put, Rondo. They got the defenders to throw at that backcourt to really neutralize, the dribble, kick out action that they like to run a lot. Give me the LA Clippers, man. In 6. I'm gonna take the Clippers in 6 games. The 3-seeded Denver Nuggets against the 7-seeded defending champion LA Lakers. Ooh, if Jamal Murray was healthy, I might almost pick the Nuggets in this series. Not gonna lie to y'all, I might actually pick the Nuggets in this series. But I think not having that elite playoff guard play is going to be the reason why the Lakers win this series. I think this is another 6-game series. I think I picked every series to go 6, but I just think that's really where we stand. It's another 6-game series. I just don't think in this series, this is where you need Jamal Murray. This is where you need a Jamal Murray. And I don't think the Nuggets have enough without him to be able to beat the Lakers. The Lakers are such a good defensive team. And by this point, you would expect LeBron to be in full playoff mode and look healthy. You expect Anthony Davis to be in full playoff mode. And then you would hope guys like Dennis Schroeder are playing better basketball. KCP, Wes Matthews, all those guys. I'm going to take the Lakers in 6. If Jamal Murray was healthy, it might be a different story. It would at least be a 7-game series and could go either way. But with him being out, I think that's the reason why the Nuggets are being sent home here. Conference Finals. Start with the East once again. The 1 and the 2, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. I've been saying for like the last couple months, if there's one team in the East that can beat the Nets, it is Philly. They defend. I think they're, one of the better defensive teams in the league. Numbers may not point to them being the best, but when I watch them, they're just super consistent on the defensive side. They have the mismatch of all mismatch on the block with Joel Embiid. And in the playoff basketball setting, that could really slow the game down, slow the tempo down. They have very good wing defenders. Danny Green has shown that he's still a good defender at his age. Matisse Thybulle off the bench. Tobias Harris has shown me something defensively this season too, and they have the defensive player of the year, in my opinion, in Ben Simmons. With all that being said, it's gonna be so tough to stop this Nets core 4 times in the series. It's gonna be so tough to do that. And I would also expect them by this point, chemistry ain't gonna be no issue. Even if it's an issue now, but it's not gonna be no issue. Conditioning won't be like they're gonna be in full championship grind mode. I think this is a 7-game series, and I'm gonna take the Nets. It might be the cliche pick, but I gave y'all the breakdown of why I'm picking the Nets. I just think their offense is gonna be too much, and I don't think Philly has the firepower to really keep up with them. They would need a very big series from Tobias Harris. Seth Curry's gonna have to really shoot the lights out. You're gonna need Danny Green to be hitting shots. Joel Embiid has to be unstoppable in this series, and Ben Simmons is also gonna have to be able to provide something on the offensive side. That's a lot to ask for this Philly team. So with that being said, I'm gonna take the Brooklyn Nets in 7 games. And we finally got it, man. We finally got it. The Battle of LA. Clippers, Lakers, the 4 seed and the 7 seed. That's kind of wild, but this will probably be a classic series, what we expected last season, but we all know what happened in the bubble. We don't need to revisit that. I don't know. This is going to be a very, very compelling series. In my mind, I really want to say the Clippers. I really do. I really do want to say the Clippers, but it's gonna be it's a toss-up series in my eyes. It's really a toss-up series. Like I mentioned, Paul George, he's also the key for this team, to how good they can be. I expect Kawhi to be there, but the thing that makes the Clippers a compelling team, they have the bodies to throw at LeBron. Now it's hard to really contain LeBron for a 7-game series. We know that. It hardly ever happens. I think I've seen it happen one time, and that was like 10 years ago. So it really never happens. But I think they have the bodies to throw at LeBron. I'm so close to going Clippers here, but I already made my pick before. I'm gonna take the Lakers in 7. I just think having LeBron James is really that big of a difference maker, man. I really do think it is. And once again, the Lakers as a team, they defend so well. So as the Clippers have been one of the better offensive teams and one of the best shooting teams, not just this season, one of the best 3-point shooting teams ever. The Lakers, they're going to be closing out on those shooters. They're going to be making you take those tough contested twos, the Carusos, the Wes Matthews, the KCPs, Dennis Schroeder. Like, those guys are very active on the defensive end. Anthony Davis, and then you have AD and LeBron, to really control your offense. And I'm taking the Lakers in 7. If you ask me this in like a week, or if you ask me this tomorrow, I might change my pick, but I'm going to take the Lakers in 7 for now. Nets, Lakers, KD, Kyrie, James, AD, LeBron, and company. I already made my pick on this too when I was on my guy Cantley Elliott's podcast, or we was on IG Live, but Nets in 6. Take the Nets in 6, and here's why. This is from my standpoint right now, from what I've seen. The Lakers supporting cast will really have to elevate their play for them to win this series. They can't be like how they were in the playoffs last season, where it was like you might get one game a series from KCP, or one game a series from Danny Green, or maybe you get your Rondo game here and there. They have to be locked in the full 7-game series. And when you already have 3 superstar offensive players in the big 3 in Brooklyn, it makes it so easy for guys like Joe Harris to just have like a 14-point, 15-point game, here and then. Then you'll have a game from Jeff Green where he has like 15 points, or, I don't know, like Tyler Johnson or Nick Claxton or something. Like, it's easy for these guys to have these games because they're not relied upon nearly as much as even the Lakers supporting cast. Like, Dennis Schroeder is going to be asked to do a lot in that series. There's just so much offensive firepower on that team. I have to take the Nets, and that's kind of crazy because they're not the defensive team that championship teams usually are. But this is truly an anomaly of a team. I'm gonna take the Nets in 6. Finals MVP, I don't know. Let's just give it to. I'm gonna give it to James Harden. Give it to James Harden, but Nets in 6. James Harden Finals MVP. Yeah, so yeah, those are my playoff predictions. You may not agree with them 100%, but that's totally fine. We can have a conversation in the comments if you choose to. So if you have any disagreements or anything that you want to, tap in on, just go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I'm gonna get back to y'all, man. So appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I'll be back next time, y'all. Peace.